Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. You know, every morning on the John Campea Show, our main movie news show, we save some time and take a bunch of live questions. But in the afternoons, that's all we do. Just all open discussion about anything you guys want to talk about. That's what Open Mic is all for. Now, you notice today, we are starting the show a little bit earlier than normal. Normally, this show is at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today, we're doing it at 1 p.m., and it's just for today. Today is the anniversary of the passing of my father-in-law, Anne's dad. So we are leaving town here as soon as we're done today's open mic to go and hang out with family and go eat at one of Anne's dad's favorite restaurants and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be doing that today. So we moved the show time up earlier today, and I'm going to keep today's show a little bit short, maybe a little bit over a half hour, which means I might get through all the questions that we have right now. But if you haven't already sent in a question, you might not want to send them in unless you don't mind them being saved for the companion videos that we're going to do this weekend. But I'm going to get through the questions that we got. I'll get through as many as that we can. And then we will all usher ourselves into the weekend. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. All right. With all that out of the way, let's get started here with some live questions that you guys are already sending in. And the first one this afternoon comes to us from Adamus95, who writes, "Just got out of the Meg and will have to disagree with you, John. I had so much fun watching the movie. Saw it as more as an homage to classic B movies." Yeah, I didn't see it like that. I saw it as a failure. But, you know, look, I gotta say, even though I said I can't really recommend it, I don't think the movie's garbage either. Like I said, there are redeemable things about the Meg. And I did my quick review of the Meg on the show earlier today, and you can find my review up on my website. But I thought, yeah, there was definitely redeemable stuff. The fun, everything for me that had to do with the shark was great. But I don't know, man, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that anything away from the shark was anything but schlock. I mean, pretty bad acting, except for maybe Ruby Rose, who I'd never really seen act before. So I was happy to see that. But the Rainn Wilson character was terrible. I thought Jason Statham was and I'm a big Jason Statham fan. Love Jason Statham, but I really felt he was out of place here. But hey, that's why all film is subjective. But I will agree with you, definitely. Everything that had to do with the shark was shot well, good tension, all that kind of stuff is there. So I don't think the movie's garbage. Unfortunately, I thought the bad outweighed the good. But you think differently, and that's the great things about movies, is we can all see it a little bit different. All right, next one. Luke1234 writes, "Would you rather own the Millennium Falcon with no hyperdrive or an X-Wing with X-Wing with hyperdrive? Like, you can't get anywhere. I mean, that's like saying, living in Los Angeles, would you rather have a car or a skateboard? Like, with a skateboard, you can get around a little bit, but like you can't go from Burbank to Santa Monica. Not like in a reasonable amount of time. So in the Star Wars universe, without a hyperdrive, you're stuck. I mean, really. You're on the world you're on, and that's where you're going to be. You're stuck. So even though the Millennium Falcon will be much bigger, much roomier, you can bring passengers along, all that kind of stuff. If I had to just choose between these two, simply for practicality and being able to get around the galaxy, I'm picking me up an X-Wing with a hyperdrive. That's just me. Slightly Brown writes, "Have you ever seen Mad Men? If so, do you never really watched Mad Men? I've always heard great things about it. It's obviously where everybody knows John Hamm from. And a lot of performers on there, as a matter of fact. It's always won a lot of awards. It's beloved. I've always keep telling myself, one of these days I gotta binge watch that series. Because I've seen an episode or two, but I really didn't know what was going on. Because I haven't been following the show. So no, not really. I haven't really watched it, but I do intend to binge it one of these days. Ben Rayner writes, "Is Finding Neverland a Peter Pan movie or a movie about a play that just so happens to be about Peter Pan?" Yeah, no. First of all, I really like Finding Neverland. That Johnny Depp movie. I think it's the last time I saw Johnny Depp in a film that I went, he was great in that. He's been pretty good in some other things, but that was the last movie I watched Johnny Depp in that I just went, oh my God, he was awesome in this, you know? Finding Neverland is wonderful. And is it Highmore? Is that the name of the kid? Anyway, he does the movie with the same kid he did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with. So you kind of had a re-teaming up there. I think Finding Neverland is a really special movie. But it is not a Peter Pan movie. It's a movie about the guy who created Peter Pan, and there's mythology worked into the story, but it's not about Peter Pan. It's about the guy who created Peter Pan and what was his motivations for it and all that kind of stuff, you know? So, yeah, I would say no, it's not a Peter Pan movie, but it's a great movie. If you haven't watched Finding Neverland yet, guys, add it to your watch list. It's a really good one. All right, Curtis Lopez writes, which actress, 20 plus years your age, would you date? For me, no doubt, Tina Fey or Salma Hayek. For me, hold on a second. For me, I would have to say, there's a few, but I'll tell you what, I don't care how old she is. Helen Mirren to me is sexy as fuck. I mean, hold on a second. Let me look up Helen Mirren's age. I'm not quite sure how old she is now. She's 73. To me, there's something sexy as fuck about Helen Mirren. I don't know what it is, but yeah, if I had to date somebody more than 20 years older than me, it would. I think you could do much worse than dating Helen Mirren. So that's kind of what I would go for, I guess. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know who's 20 years older than me. Like, I'd have to work that all out. But I know Helen Mirren's at least 20. She's like 30 years older than me. But, yep, I'd go for that. Ben Rayner writes, it was cool that Dustin Hoffman was both in Hook and Finding Neverland. Loved some of the meta jokes about it in Finding Neverland. Well, Dustin Hoffman's just, I mean, he's been in a lot of great stuff. I don't know why this comes up a lot, but I am always shocked and surprised when I read people saying they didn't like Hook. I'll never get that. I think Hook is fun and delightful and charming and whimsical, and I love the characters, and there's great memorable moments. It's very quotable. I think Hook is great. I love Hook. Bangarang, I love Hook. But I'll never be surprised. You know, we talked about this before, but there's movies that you don't like, but you can totally get why people like it. Or there's movies that you like, but you totally get why people don't like it. I don't get it with Hook. I don't know what there is about that film not to enjoy. I think it's just delightful. I love that movie. But anyway, there we go. Okay. Karen Peterson writes, trash my movie pass. Don't love near AMC. Live near AMC. Regal? Well, yeah, I mean, Regal's a great theater. Unfortunately, they don't have a movie club yet. But you know Regal's going to get one. Because Cinemark is having great success with theirs. AMC is having great success with theirs. And Regal, the company that owns Regal, is Cineworld. And Cineworld has been doing the movie club thing for over a decade overseas in the UK. And they own Regal now. So you know there's going to be a movie club coming to Regal of some sorts. One way or the other, that's going to be coming. So keep your eyes open for that, but it'll be happening sooner rather than later. Mike Davis writes, that was some great fan art of you and Robert. Yeah, there's a guy who's been watching me for a while. His name's David Crabtree. I honestly didn't even remember he was an artist, but he just tweeted out to us the other day, and he tweeted this art. Actually, let me see if I can pull this over here. There's one. Okay, so here's a couple of the ones that he did. And he said, The Weekly Hero. I love these. I think he did a great job. Just, randomly, David just made these and emailed them to me. I like this one a lot. Actually, let me see if I can blow this one up a bit. I like this one a lot. And you know what? You know how I've been trying to figure out a new title for The Weekly Hero? I'm telling you what, David, I don't think David intended this, but it's only a slight variation, but The Weekly Hero Chronicles. So TWHC. Welcome to TWHC, like The Weekly Hero Chronicles. I think I like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's going to be the new name of the show. But TWHC, The Weekly Hero Chronicles. I kind of dig that. And that, like I said, David didn't even mean it. He just meant it to be like a comic book cover. But I read it and I went, oh my gosh, I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea. So I'm not sure, but don't be shocked if Wednesday comes and I go, guys, welcome to the Weekly Hero Chronicles. And that's the name of the new show. I'm not saying I'm doing it. I'm just saying I like that. I like that title a lot. So that's just me right now. Okay. Let's see. What's next here? That was Mike Davis. Now we go on to Chris Miner, who writes, I'd rather see a Best Catering Award over a Best Popular Movie one. Speaking of, most tasty looking food on screen. The Cabanos in Chef always come to mind. I'm telling you what, we watched that movie Chef. It's got John Favreau. I think Robert Downey Jr. even appears in it. I can't remember, but Scarlett Johansson is in it. Anyway, it's John Favreau's film, and we watch. It's a great little movie, but beyond that, all Ann and I could talk about for weeks after that is let's go find a good Cuban restaurant and go get some sandwiches. Like that's all we talked about after watching that. Makes your mouth water. I know it's animated, but Ratatouille comes to mind. Gosh, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. About food, I've seen a movie like Best Looking Dishes I've seen in movies. That's a good one. But yeah, you're not off on that Chef recommendation. First of all, you should see Chef because it's a really good little movie. But you will go hunting for a good Cuban restaurant after you watch it. I'm just warning you right now, you're going to go hunting for a good Cuban restaurant after you watch it. All right. Michael Myers writes, words can't describe how much I love Spartacus. I love and missed Andy Whitfield when he passed. However, I do believe Liam McIntyre honored him well. Did you ever watch the Andy Whitfield documentary? I did not. Now, I had a chance to meet and hang out with Andy Whitfield. He, one year when I was throwing a party at Comic-Con, Starz, that was the network, right? Starz partnered with us to become a sponsor of our party. And our party at Comic-Con that year had a Spartacus theme. And we had all the dudes dressed as gladiators and stuff like that. And Andy was there. And he looked great. And the word was going around that he was healthy again and he was coming back to play Spartacus again. And then, of course, tragically, just a few months after that, we got word that he had passed away. And of course, you guys, for those of you who saw it, I had my interview with my friend Aaron Cummings in here, and Aaron loved Andy. Aaron, of course, played his wife on Spartacus, and she loved him. And it was really, really sad. I'll tell you what, though, I never really got on board with Liam McIntyre after that. Like, first of all, look, he's in way better shape than me, but it never sat right with me that, like, Liam seemed like, compared to all these other gladiators, he looked like the runt of the litter. And I just had a hard time buying this little scrawny guy compared to the other gladiators on the show. This little scrawny guy was the most fearsome of all the gladiators and their leader. And it just never, like, Andy had more of a physical presence. You know what I mean? Like, I could buy into Andy. Liam, I just never did, for whatever reason. I'm not bagging on his performance. I'm just saying I was never able to buy into that as much. But still, Spartacus is in my top 3 all-time favorite shows. Battlestar Galactica, Sons of Anarchy, and Spartacus are my 3 all-time favorite shows. The dialogue of that show, the writing and dialogue of that show were just impeccable. So good. So good. Like, and all the characters were so rich, and I mean, all the characters, none of them were one-dimensional. They were all layered characters, and I mean, your most vile characters, they showed you good sides of them. Your most pure good guy characters, you showed them the dark side of them. They always treated everybody like multiple dimensional characters with great dialogue, great plot, great action. Manu Bennett, of course, that's where most of us really started to recognize him. It was such a great show. I love Spartacus so much. I miss it a lot. Okay. Let's see, but I never did see Andy's documentary. No, Michael, I never did see that. I do got to get around to watching that. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, how was it being on Kitchen Nightmares? It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun being on Kitchen Nightmares. We had a friend who worked with Gordon Ramsay, and they invited us down because they did an episode in a restaurant in Glendale a couple years ago. And, you know, Ann is a major foodie, and we watch Food Network and stuff like that. So we got invited down, got to meet Gordon Ramsay beforehand. That was really good. And it was just a lot of fun. And I got to tell you what, too, it was You know, these shows, they do the before, like when everything's terrible, and then they do the after they do everything to improve the place. We were there for dinner night on the after of this place. And it was so good. Oh my God, it was so good. And it's still funny to this day. Whenever that episode re-airs, I can always tell when a new episode airs because I'll get about 10 tweets from people with screenshots of me and Ann on the show saying, John, you're on Kitchen Nightmares. It's like every 4 months. I guess that's the rotation in the cycle of the show. Because every 4 months I get tweets from people with screenshots saying, John, did you know you're on Kitchen Nightmares? Yep, I did. But that was a lot of fun, actually. It was a really good night. And it's fun, too, because we're sitting on the restaurant and you could hear Gordon screaming at people in the kitchen. Like, even without cameras back there. There were no cameras. You just hear Gordon, what are you doing? Blah, blah, bleep, 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 blah. Like, he was just yelling at people. But I'll tell you what, though, the food that night was awesome. Had a really good time. Him Halpert writes, also, have you seen... first one. Should the wrestlers on WWE get Emmy nominations? No. It's a totally different kind of thing, and they're all pretty hammy, so no. If Jim follows up, also, have you seen Bo Burnham's 8th Grade yet? Not yet, but I've been aching to see it. But you know what? I was right on the precipice of going to go see it, and then a couple of people wrote to me and said, if you didn't like Lady Bird, you may not like this. And that kind of disheartened me. But then like right around the time when the screenings were happening is when I had my surgery and everything. So I missed that. So nope, still haven't seen it yet. And it was playing at the theater that I went to go see the Meg at last night. So I'll see if I can slip over there this weekend sometime and finally catch up with it. Matt Thornton writes, I recently read that Pirate 6 is happening. While I do love a good pirate movie, I can't say I'm hyped for this. Since Disney acquired LucasArts, I'd love to see a film adaptation of Monkey Island. I have not heard. Hold on a second. Let me just see. I mean, there's rumors. Now look, right from day one, we knew that they were considered, as soon as the last movie played. And by the way, I didn't hate The Last Pirates. I thought The Last Pirates movie was the best one they've done since the original. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was the best one they've done since the original. So anyway, right at the beginning, as soon as that movie came out, they said they were still considering doing another one. They never said they had never ruled out doing another one. So there are rumors going out right now that they are developing one. That doesn't mean they're doing. Remember, the word develop and actually doing it are two different things. Lots of projects go into development and then never get made. So just because they're kind of working on something and probably working out what they might be able to do here. And apparently there is some rumors going around that they are getting some development going on something like that. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's, first of all, with all the stuff going on with Johnny Depp, can you do that? And then can you do a Pirates of the Caribbean movie without Johnny Depp? So it's tricky. I think it's a solid maybe that could happen. But remember, that hasn't changed. Right from the last film, they have said they have not closed the door on doing another one. They have always had an eye on doing another one. Whether this actually comes to fruition and happens, we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Jay Bling writes, sorry if this has been asked already, but what's up with Happy Time Murders? Explosive trailer with Deadpool 2, but buzz has felt dry since. Blow their entire load too soon. I don't know. You know what? Yeah, I think they might have put that trailer out too early. Because now here we are. We're really close to the movie coming out now in the next couple of weeks. And all that buzz from that big trailer has kind of died off. And do you want to put out another trailer showing off a whole new batch of all the funny jokes in the movie and ruin a lot of it? I don't know if that's the case. I mean, really, they should have probably released this trailer maybe 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago would have been a good time to release the trailer. Oh, look, I know this. I loved the trailer to Happy Time Murders. I am very excited to see this movie. It's one of those movies that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. You can just tell that from the trailer. Because everybody either loves that trailer or they hate that trailer. Me, I love the trailer. I think it looks fantastic. So the trailer just made me laugh my guts out. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, it might be a case that maybe they played that trailer too early. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Adam Douglas writes, new long-range tracking has Venom opening to 40 million. If it holds, Sony has to consider that a disappointment. No. What does it need to hit to not be one? I don't know that you'd consider 40 million a disappointment, to be honest with you. Look, they're not stupid. They know this is the first piece of a puzzle they're trying to rebuild, right? Let's use a sports analogy. Sometimes teams go into what they called rebuilding years, where they realize, okay, our best players are now past their prime. We don't have a lot of prospects. So we're going to start making some moves to bring in some young guys, accumulate some draft picks, start developing some players, and understanding that this year is a rebuilding year. We're not going to have a lot of success this year. We're doing this so hopefully in the next year or 2 or 3, we will build bigger success as we go. With Sony, in many ways, and I've mentioned this before, I think Venom needs to be looked at as a rebuilding year. Now, hopefully the movie's great, and then they can build off that success. But Sony knows this is a gambit. This is a gamble. Doing your own Spider-Verse films without Spider-Man, leading it off with one of your villains, a villain that did not work on screen before, blah, blah, blah. They know that you can't expect to come out of the gate and have Venom make $800 million. And I remember when this topic came up before, somebody asked, hey, John, what do you think the chances are of Venom making $1 billion? I'm like, 0. It's just not going to make $1 billion. I think they got to throw a party if they hit 600 million. If they hit 500 million, that's still a big win. 400 million, not bad. 400 million would be not bad. I think if you could tell Sony right now that at the end of the day, worldwide, Venom will make 400 million, I think you take that as a win. Then the idea is people love it. I mean, because if the movie's bad, then it doesn't matter. But idealistically, people love it. Critics enjoy it. The fans enjoy it. It makes you a little bit of money. Great. That is your rebuilding year. That's your step 1 in establishing this new thing. And then you build from there. Now you've got goodwill. Now you've got people getting on board with what you're doing. All that kind of stuff. They know they need to do a lot with this Venom movie, and they needed to know right away that this isn't going to be $1 billion film. It's not going to be an $800 million film. They had to know that going in. This is a rebuilding year. Get the fans on board with this new universe, get them to really enjoy this new film, and then you reap the rewards of that with your next film. So I think that's the way they got to see it, because you just had too many strikes against it to start. An entire universe built around a superhero, and that superhero is not going to be there. You're doing it with what's traditionally been a villain. You're doing it with the villain that's been on screen not too many years ago, and it was terrible, and everybody hated it. So they're starting 3 feet back of the starting line already. So if they were to hit 40, personally, I think it's going to do 50 or 60. I personally think it's going to come in 50 to 60. But even at 40, that's fine. 40's fine. Now, if this was Justice League, or if this was like Sinister, let's say Sony builds up to a Sinister 6 movie over years and that opens to $40 million, that's no good. But for this, that's fine. They know they're not going to reap their big rewards on this film. They're building to reap bigger rewards later. So, yeah, I wouldn't, like I said, all those blocks stacked against it, you can't expect that big of an opening weekend. You need to get it out there. You need to make it great. You need to get people to like it and then let it have legs. Don't expect a whole hell of a lot of people to be rushing out to it on opening weekend. There's just too many things against it. So, yeah, 40 would be the low end of what I think would be okay. I think what they really want to get is somewhere in the 50 to 60 range, and then hopefully get to that 380, 390, 400 million worldwide. If they can do that, it's a win. If they can exceed that, it's party time. But none of it matters if the movie's not good. If the movie's not good, none of it matters. Because then that whole plan of building on something goes out the window and they're screwed. So the movie's got to be good. All right. Rodney Hurd writes, you're not going to believe this, John, but guess who the writers of Superman decided to bring back and make a part of the comics. None other than Nuclear Man. I kid you not, look it up and see. Oh, I don't want to see. I don't want to see. Well, I mean, look, you can have... Remember I was just talking about Venom, right? So, Venom in the comics was great. Venom in Spider-Man 3 was horrible. Just because he was horrible in a movie doesn't mean he couldn't be done great on a comic book page, right? We've seen that with Venom. We've seen that with Doctor Doom. We've seen that with Galactus. So I'll give Nuclear Man the benefit of the doubt. Just because he was awful on the big screen doesn't mean he won't be great on a comic book page. It's a different medium with different writers and creators doing different things with him. So it could be great. He could be the best villain that Superman has ever had in any of his comics. I mean, it did. Look, you're absolutely right, Rodney. It's eye-rolling to hear that. But the reality is, this isn't a movie. This is a comic book. And just because he didn't work in the movie doesn't mean he won't work in the comic book. So, hey, maybe it'll be great. But it is funny. It is funny when you mention that. And no, I had not heard that. So thank you, Rodney, for bringing that to my attention. All right, let's see here. Lawrence RBE writes, don't studios normally increase theater count or bring back a movie when it's award season? I asked because you mentioned Disney sort of cheated to get Black Panther. No, not always. What a lot of studios do is, like a lot of times, this is what happens every year. The Best Picture nominees get announced. And inevitably, a couple of them haven't even opened in theaters yet. And then everybody goes, how can that movie be nominated when it hasn't even opened? What they do is they open it in Los Angeles and New York and maybe in a couple of little markets, maybe on like 5 screens. So it qualifies for the Oscars. And then they do wide release in the new year after the Oscar buzz starts to get generated and stuff like that, right? So they can release it in January, late January, whatever, as you get closer to the Oscars after the nominations have been announced. So that's what a lot do. And that's why a lot of these movies will push these Oscar kind of contending films later in the year to be as close to the Oscars as possible to benefit from that. They don't always re-release. Actually, it's rare that they re-release. It happens sometimes. It does happen sometimes, but they just like to position their movies closer to the Oscars to take advantage of that Oscar buzz and get things rolling. And then, yeah, sometimes you'll get a re-release. Let's see. Radhames Riaz writes, hey John, why studios keep hiring The Rock for every damn movie when some of his movies don't make a lot of money? Love your videos. Keep up the good work. Because the movies make more money with him in them. That's the thing. Look, I've explained this a few times, but the day and age is gone that, oh, just put this star in the movie and it'll be a hit. That doesn't exist anymore, nor does it exist with The Rock. But here's the thing. Jumanji does not make $900 million without The Rock in it. Maybe it makes $790. Maybe it makes $810. But guess what? You make your lead guy The Rock, boom, over $900 million. Maybe, actually, how much did, I know Rampage, movie box office. All right. So Rampage, which had no business being made into a movie. This is a ridiculous, stupid looking idea for a movie. Holy crap, it made $426 million. That movie does not make $426 million if you have another actor in there instead of The Rock. Maybe the movie's better, maybe it's worse, but it doesn't make 426 without The Rock. Maybe it makes 310 without The Rock. Maybe it makes 340. The bottom line, though, is by having The Rock in it, more people see it than would have seen it. It doesn't mean, you don't put The Rock in Rampage and all of a sudden Rampage is $1 billion film. No, but it makes more money than it would have without him. I think that's indisputable, right? So why do studios keep wanting to put The Rock in things? Because The Rock means that movie will make more money than it would have without him. Look, seriously, Skyscraper didn't do a lot. Skyscraper worldwide has made, well, more than I thought, actually. It's made $280 million worldwide, right? That was not an interesting looking movie. It's not that interesting looking of a movie. It turned out being an okay film. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But do you think it makes $280 million? If, I don't know, if it's David Schwartz playing the lead? Do you think it makes $280 million if Jason Segel's in the lead? And I love Jason Segel. That is not me casting shade on Jason Segel. But you see what I'm saying? They put him in because adding him adds to the box office. Having The Rock and Skyscraper didn't make it an $800 million film, but what is a $280 million film? Probably would have been 180. Maybe would have been 205. Make it The Rock, extra $70 million, right? Like that. Just like that. Boom, extra $70 million. That's why studios do it. So don't look at, when you're looking at Skyscraper, don't go, oh, Skyscraper only made 280. I guess that means people don't go out to see The Rock. No. Start thinking, how much would that movie have made if The Rock had not been the guy on the poster? A movie that did not look all that interesting, did not look fun or exciting, blah, blah, blah. It makes less than 280. And I think that is really why you see them keep going back to him, because it's proving. He proves it over and over again. You put him in the movie makes more than it really had any business making. So that's why they do that. It's not a night and day difference. It's not, that was going to be a $50 million movie, and now it's a $500 million movie. No, not like that. But it's a difference. And that's why studios line up to get him as many of their movies as possible. Let's see here. James Boner writes, I've got to admit, I hate watching a film that I really love and seeing it from a more critical perspective. Halloween 78, with the exception of Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis, the acting sucked in it. I gotta tell you, I still remember this happened. I think I was still doing the movie blog at the time. But I rewatched Halloween because this girlfriend of mine, not girlfriend, but girlfriend, this girlfriend of mine was hosting this, hey, we're all going to get together and watch Halloween at my house. So I'm like, okay, great. And her name is Serena. Serena actually did some writing for me on the movie blog at the time. But so went out to Toronto, went to her place, and we all watched. And I was like, yeah, because I had seen Halloween when I was younger. And I watched Halloween again, and I was like, I don't think this movie's any good. And then I said that. I talked about it on our podcast. Our podcast at the time was called the Movie Blog Audio Edition. First movie podcast in the world, actually. It was. Look it up. It was the first movie podcast in the world. The Movie Blog Audio Edition. It was before the word podcast was even being used. The term podcast hadn't been coined yet. But anyway, and I remember mentioning it, that I didn't like it. I did not think it held up. I was bored to tears actually watching that movie. And oh my God, you would have thought I just said all puppies should be beaten with, metal hammers. Because the response I got, John, how dare you say that Halloween isn't the greatest thing ever. I mean, people were mad at me. Like straight up mad at me. I'm like, guys, I'm just being honest. I watched the film. It didn't work for me. Yeah, it's so you're preaching to the choir here, James. I mean, overall, Halloween just didn't work for me. It really didn't. And now, right now, many of you are angrily typing your emails to me, John, how dare you say that about... Hey, look, I'm not trashing on anybody else for liking it. If you like it, that's awesome. People love it. It's a beloved classic. It's an icon of the horror genre. It absolutely is. I'm just saying it didn't work for me. That's all I'm saying. Don't get too mad at me. So yeah, man, you're preaching to the wrong guy, man. I can't sit here and reprimand you for saying that, because I'm kind of in the same boat, if not more so, than you are. All right. Oops. There's a bit of a jump. Okay, I only got time for like a couple more because, like I said, got to get ready. We have to go to hang out with family, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Darth Vader the Boss writes, also, I just started watching The Godfather for the first time. I am not done with it yet, but once I am finished, I'll tell you what I thought of it. Oh, please do. Like, Godfather, Look, one of the big debates around is not, is Godfather the greatest film of all time, or is Godfather 2 the greatest film of all time? I mean, it's just crazy. So I'm envious. I'm always envious of people who get to watch great films for the first time, because, to get metaphysical, I will never be able to watch that movie for the first time ever again. I can never again, for the rest of my life, watch The Godfather for the first time. And you get to, and for that, I feel a little pang of jealousy. All right, Dim-Sum05 writes, can you think of a situation that an R rating would have made a movie better? Not off the top of my head, not really. No. Off the top of my head, no. Because that suggests that a movie was bad, and just if you had more boobs and F-bombs and blood, that makes it a good movie. And I can't think of any that it does. I mean, I will say this. The one time that it did strike me a little odd was that one Die Hard movie they did. The first Die Hard movie they did that was PG-13. And it only stuck out to me because I'm just so accustomed to the language in those movies. Like, I'm just used to it, right? You watch a Die Hard movie, there's a lot of swearing in them. And going into that Die Hard movie, I could really feel the change of gears, how they changed gears. The action was still, the action made no difference. The action was still the action. But it was the swearing that it was like, watching it, this feels odd. It just felt weird because I'm so accustomed to the language in the Die Hard movies, you know? So that's one to me that probably would have increased my viewing experience had it been rated R. Because like I said, and again, that's just because I'm so used to the franchise, and then it kind of changed gears so harshly. It was like, whoa. So that was kind of off-putting to me. Dakota Barber writes, Thanos will have nothing but dust and blood was a great line and foreshadowing in Infinity War. Dude, it was a badass line. That's a badass line. That's the line of a king. Because you got Thanos, most fearsome lord in all of space and galaxies. And you got to be a badass. You have to be a king. Stand there and say, he'll have nothing but dust and blood. That's a badass line. And you know what? It's in the middle of so much stuff going on. I don't think people really stop, or were even able to stop and appreciate just how badass of a line that was. It's a terrific line, and I loved it. All right. Roke Tutu writes, John, A Quiet Place, monsters versus stealth ninjas. My bet is on the ninjas. I'll put my money on, I'm not sure who the stealth ninjas are. I'm probably going to kick myself later for not remembering, but I don't recall what the stealth ninjas are. But any human beings versus those monsters, I'll take those monsters. They were pretty damn nutty. But now I got to remember who the stealth ninjas are. I'll look it up in a little bit. Craig Carpenter just sends a super chat. Thank you so much. So does Kevin Kamaki. Thank you, Kevin. And then Daryl Best Wadley writes, started Supernatural. What's the best and worst season? There's an argument to be made that season 6 may be the best season. But I'll tell you what, I've seen in the last 4 or 5, there are a couple really great seasons too. But I think the show today stays very strong. It's great. But season 6 is pretty damn good. And then maybe the worst might be the one that came after it, which was season 7. That one might be the worst one. Because season 6, if I'm remembering, it's the season where finally this whole thing about the yellow-eyed demon translating into Lucifer. Lucifer's out in the world. Michael and Lucifer are trying to have this battle with each other that would basically end half the life on the planet. It would be apocalyptic, their battle, and the boys are trying to stop it from happening. And season 6 concludes that story. And there were some people for some time who said they should have ended the series right there. And they could have. They went on to 7, and 7 was that show refinding its feet, if I'm remembering the years properly. 7 was then refinding their feet. So I'll say 7. I still enjoyed 7, but I think it's the weakest one, and then it picks right back up. I have loved this series. I love it, but that's my guess. Those would be my guesses. All right. I'll take 2 more questions, and then I got to wrap it up today. Like I said, I've got to keep today a little bit short because I've got to go join family. Eddie Brunton writes, thoughts on McGregor UFC return in October? I think it's disgraceful. I think it's an embarrassment. The UFC should have suspended him for at least 2 years. He put people's lives at risk. He put people in the hospital, acting like a little bitch, like a little jackass bitch, coming with a gang of 30 dudes and throwing stuff through bus windows with people on those buses, terrifying people who were on the bus, including women who were on the bus. The fact that the UFC didn't even fine him, the fact that he put their own fighters in physical risk, could have killed, thrown this thing through glass windows that sent guys to the hospital. It's an embarrassment. The UFC should be ashamed of itself. The UFC should be ashamed of itself that they didn't at least suspend him. I'm not saying ban him for life, but they should have at minimum suspended him. They should have fined him and suspended him, and they didn't. Why? Because he makes them money. It's disgraceful. It's totally disgraceful. Let's see. And the only good thing about it is that McGregor is fighting Khabib, and Khabib will beat him to within an inch of his life. Khabib is going to rip him to shreds. Khabib is the baddest man on the planet. He is the baddest man on the planet. So, yeah, he's going to destroy McGregor. Murray Reich writes, 2 weeks away till Happy Time Murders. I'm very excited about it. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Yeah, I'm stoked for it. And last one today will be from Lord of Thunder, Prince of Stars writes, wish we could have seen Vision unleash full power in Infinity War. Yeah, Vision, he starts off with 1 foot in the grave, right? Like his very first bit of combat starts with running him through, and he was never 100% after that. He was never 100% after that. So I thought it was kind of interesting that they did that. It was a really interesting thing. You know, on the commentary, the directors talked about that a little bit because he goes, you got to be careful doing these movies when you have too many characters that are too powerful. And that's true. It creates narrative problems. And so the decision to have Vision handicapped in many ways, and basically injured throughout the film was a really smart thing to do. Because when you get too many guys that are all too powerful, it hurts things, right? And I thought it was an interesting move. I thought it was actually a very smart move. Yeah, it would have been neat to see, but narrative-wise, I thought it was the right move, and I thought it was pretty cool that they did that. Okay, guys, that's all the time I have here for today. I got to get out to these family things. Thank you guys so much for joining me, not just today, but for joining me all week. It's been a great week. A lot of cool stuff and movies we've talked about this week. Now listen, don't forget, for all you guys who sent in super chat questions that I didn't get around to, I will be adding them to the list for the companion videos. I've got a whole lot of companion video questions queued up. So I'm probably going to have 3 or 4 companion videos over the weekend. So there's going to be lots of videos this weekend for everybody to jump in and enjoy. But guys, I want you to have a safe weekend, have a fun weekend, have a relaxing weekend. Make sure you take some time this weekend just to do something that makes you happy. Maybe go to a good movie, maybe play a game, do whatever. Just do something that makes you happy this weekend and have a good time. All right, guys, my next live show is, of course, going to be Monday morning when the John Campea Show returns at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm looking forward to having you guys there. That'll do it for me, guys. My name is John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.